My father saw my face on national television at 7:52 p.m., sitting in the most expensive restaurant in Columbus, Ohio, with a $310 bottle of wine sweating beside his hand. He had just finished saying that my sister Brooke was proof of real ambition and that teaching was what women did when they lacked the nerve to compete. My mother smiled into her champagne because agreeing with him had always been easier than loving me out loud. Brooke laughed and corrected him, softly and cruelly, saying I was not just a teacher. I was a middle school teacher. That was supposed to make it funnier. Then, the CNN alert opened on his phone. The screen showed me in Washington, D.C., shaking hands with the Secretary of Education beneath a banner that read, National Teacher of the Year. The cameras caught the Crystal Award in my hands, and the former student crying because he had just told 2,000 people I was the reason he was alive. My father's face emptied first, like someone had pulled the structure out from behind his eyes. Then Brooke spilled red wine across the white tablecloth. 48 hours earlier, they had told me they were too busy to come. 3 weeks before that night, I was still Miss Claire Whitman from room 217 at Cedar Ridge Middle School, wiping dry erase dust from my palms at 6:18 p.m., while the building smelled like floor wax, cafeteria marinara, and old paper. The last bus had left 20 minutes earlier, but I stayed because staying had become part of the job. My classroom was ugly in the way public school classrooms get ugly when nobody with money has loved them in a long time. The heater clicked like it had a grudge. One corner of the carpet curled upward, and every wall was covered with student poems, college pennants, and thank you notes written by kids who had once believed nobody wanted their thoughts. That room was my proof. My phone buzzed while I was locking the cabinet where I kept snacks for students who pretended they were not hungry. Mom. Claire, honey, she said, her voice bright in that performance-ready way it always got when Brooke had good news. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Brooke made equity partner today. The youngest in Harrington Vale's Midwest office. Your father is beside himself. That's wonderful, I said, and I meant it because jealousy was exhausting and I had spent years refusing to become what they expected. Tell her congratulations. We're having dinner Sunday. Proper dinner. Your father wants the good china out. She laughed like the china had personally passed the bar exam. Oh, wait, Brooke is calling me. I'll phone you back. Mom, I actually have something to... The line went dead. On my desk sat a cream envelope with an embossed seal from the United States Department of Education. I had carried it in my tote bag for 2 days, waiting for the right moment, as if the right moment had ever existed in my family. Inside was a formal invitation stating that I was one of 4 national finalists for Teacher of the Year. The ceremony would be held in Washington, D.C., travel covered, lodging covered, broadcast live. It was the kind of honor teachers whispered about and never expected for themselves. I read the letter again, slower this time. My nomination had been submitted by a distinguished educator whose identity would remain confidential until the ceremony. The committee had reviewed classroom data, student outcomes, community letters, and a portfolio I had not even known someone was collecting. In case. I smiled at the absurdity of that small phrase, and then looked at my wall of student notes. One of them said, Ms. Whitman, you made me feel like my brain wasn't broken. Another said, I read a whole book because you would not let me quit. A third, written by a boy named Noah 5 years ago, said, When I become somebody, I'll remember you. I had learned to measure love in small handwriting. That night, I opened the family group chat and wrote the invitation 11 different ways. The first draft was too emotional. The second sounded like I was asking permission to matter. The 9th included the words Secretary of Education, National Finalist, and Live Broadcast, which made me feel like I was trying to sell them a version of me they might finally buy. I deleted everything and wrote the truth. Hi, everyone! I have been selected as a finalist for the National Teacher of the Year Award. The ceremony is October 15th in Washington, D.C. It would mean a lot to me if you could be there. I attached the official invitation with the details. Love, Claire. I sent it at 8:09 p.m. By midnight, all 3 had read it. No one answered. At 6:43 the next morning, my father replied, Just a classroom plaque. I'm not flying to Washington for a lowly teacher's vanity parade. Brooke answered 8 minutes later. Sorry, Claire. Owen and I have dinner reservations that night. Impossible to move. Important people, you know. You understand. My mother did not write a sentence. She simply liked Brooke's message. That little blue thumb sat there like a signature. I stared at my phone long enough for the screen to dim. I felt the old pain rise, the childhood one with fingerprints on it. Brooke's debate trophies on the shelf, my report cards in drawers, my birthday forgotten because her bonus needed celebrating. Some people do not forget you by accident. They practice. I typed 4 words. That's fine. No worries. Then I set my phone face down and taught first period. 2 days later, my mother called again. Sunday dinner, 6 sharp. Don't be late. Brooke has promotion news, and your father wants the whole family together. I have to pack for Washington, I said. Oh, sweetheart, it's one dinner, and actually, there's a tiny document your father needs you to sign for the foundation. Nothing serious, just renewal paperwork. That was how my family handled requests. Wrapped in linen, served with guilt. The Whitman Family Learning Fund had been my father's favorite charitable costume for 6 years. He was a retired commercial banker who believed philanthropy looked best in glossy annual reports. My mother chaired luncheons. Brooke served as legal counsel. My name appeared on the website under educational advisor because, as Brooke once said, it gives us classroom credibility. They had donated 4 boxes of used headphones to my school in 2021 and photographed them from 6 angles. I arrived Sunday at exactly 6 p.m. Their house in Upper Arlington smelled like lemon polish, roasted salmon, and money trying not to look nervous. My father wore a cashmere sweater. Brooke sat at the head of the table in silk, one hand resting on Owen's wrist like she owned both the man and the room. Claire, she said, standing just enough to air kiss my cheek. You look tired. I came from school. On a Sunday? She smiled. That's bleak. My father lifted his glass before I sat down. To Brooke, equity partner at 37. 7 figures before 40. That is what discipline produces. My mother beamed. Owen looked down at his plate. He had always been quieter than the rest of them, which in my family made him either weak or observant. I had not decided which. Congratulations, I said. Brooke tilted her head. Thank you. You're still going to that teacher thing Tuesday? The national ceremony, yes. Right, the ceremony. My father carved into a salmon. Tell me again, do they give you a medal or just another mug? I took a sip of water. The ice clicked against the glass. Brooke laughed. Dad! What? I'm asking. Every profession has its little morale events. He looked at me with the calm cruelty of a man who believed he was being practical. Claire, you're 34. You're still renting. Still driving that noisy Subaru. Still buying crayons with your own money. At some point, you have to admit love does not pay a mortgage. My bills are paid. Barely, Brooke said. The table went still for half a breath. I set my fork down gently. I didn't realize my checking account was tonight's side dish. My mother sighed. Don't be defensive. We worry because we love you. No, I said, still calm. You worry because my life embarrasses you. My father's jaw tightened. Brooke's smile sharpened. Owen looked up. That's dramatic, Brooke said. Nobody is embarrassed. We just wish you had aimed higher. You were always bright enough to be useful. Useful. The word landed harder than it should have. Dessert came out untouched. My mother brought coffee in porcelain cups that chimed against their saucers. Then my father slid a navy folder across the table toward me. Sign page 6, he said. Standard annual certification for the foundation. It confirms Cedar Ridge received instructional materials through the Whitman Fund. Brooke reviewed it. I opened the folder. The room smelled suddenly different. Coffee, wax, salmon, and fresh printer ink. The pages listed an $86,740 distribution for literacy materials and software. Page 5 named me as on-site coordinator. Page 6 asked me to certify receipt of goods purchased with federal pass-through grant funds. My name was typed beneath the line. I looked up. Cedar Ridge didn't receive this. Brooke waved a hand. It did. Maybe not directly. These things are complicated. I manage the after-school literacy room. I inventory every donated item. My father leaned back. Claire, this is exactly why teachers should not comment on finance. The statement says I certify receipt. And you do, Brooke said, as our educational advisor. I can't certify materials I never saw. My mother's face hardened into injured softness. Your father has done so much for your school. You could show a little gratitude. I picked up the pen beside the folder and felt all three of them watching. The old Claire would have argued. The old Claire would have explained that federal pass-through funds came with requirements, that false certification was not a family favor, that my name on paper carried legal weight. But I had spent 12 years teaching children who lied badly and adults who lied beautifully. Evidence speaks better than outrage. I wrote one sentence in the margin of page 6. Received for review only, pending verification by Cedar Ridge administration. Then I signed beneath that note, dated it, and took a picture before closing the folder. Brooke's eyes narrowed. That wasn't necessary. It was accurate. My father's voice dropped. Do not make this difficult. I stood. I have a flight tomorrow. Brooke laughed softly. Flying economy to your little teacher pageant? The Department of Education booked first class, I said, and the ceremony is at the Kennedy Center, broadcast live. My father blinked. The invitation said that, I added, but you didn't read it. No one followed me to the door. Good. I drove home without music. At a red light on West 5th Avenue, CNN requested a pre-ceremony interview. 10 minutes later, I pulled into a gas station parking lot, opened my laptop, and searched the Whitman Family Learning Fund's public tax filings. I told myself I only wanted context. That was the lie I needed to begin. The audit took 4 hours and 12 minutes. I made coffee I did not drink and sat at my kitchen table while the refrigerator hummed and rain tapped against the fire escape. The Foundation's IRS Form 990 filings were public. So were state charity registrations, procurement summaries, and grant acknowledgments from the Ohio Department of Education. Most people think fraud hides in shadows. It does not. It hides in forms people assume nobody will read. I read everything. The first discrepancy was small. A $12,400 delivery listed on a day Cedar Ridge had been closed for a boiler failure. The second was louder. A $31,275 invoice from a vendor whose website had been created 11 days before payment and whose address traced to a mailbox store near Brooke's law office. The third made my hands go cold. My signature appeared on a digital certification dated April 17th at 10:42 p.m., confirming receipt of $86,740 in federally supported literacy materials. The DocuSign certificate showed the IP address 73.184.22.19. My apartment internet was not that address. Cedar Ridge was not that address. I checked old emails from a family Christmas gathering because my father once asked me to help reset their router. Their home network had that IP. I backed up everything to a flash drive, cloud storage, and an encrypted folder named Student Poems because nobody in my family had ever cared enough to open anything with that title. I pulled inventory logs, camera reports, parent conference records, and meeting minutes placing me in Dayton on a day when I had signed 14 report cards in Columbus. By 2:13 a.m., the red binder was full. At 7:30 the next morning, I walked into Dr. Howard Bell's office at Cedar Ridge and shut the door behind me. Dr. Bell had been my principal for 9 years, a tall man with tired eyes and the patience of someone who had negotiated both 8th graders and district administrators. His office smelled like burnt coffee and peppermint gum. "Claire," he said, "shouldn't you be on your way to Washington?" I need 20 minutes and your witness signature. I placed the red binder on his desk. He did not interrupt while I explained. Not once. He turned pages slowly, his expression changing from confusion to concern to something colder. When he reached the forged certification, he removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "These are federal funds," he said. "Yes." "And they used your name." "Yes." He stared at the page for another 5 seconds, then picked up his phone. "I know someone at the Department of Education, Office of Inspector General." That was the first hammer. The second came from my grandmother, Ruth Caldwell, though I did not know it yet. Grandma Ruth had spent 38 years in education, 21 as a superintendent in Northern Ohio, and she had a way of making powerful people answer the phone. When I called her from the airport and told her only that there might be a problem with the Whitman Fund, she listened in total silence. I could hear a clock ticking somewhere behind her and the faint scrape of her pen across paper. Finally, she said, "Bring the binder." "Grandma, I already gave copies to Dr. Bell." "Bring the binder anyway." Then her voice softened. "And Claire?" "Yes?" "I nominated you." The terminal noise faded around me. She continued before I could speak. "I have watched you build a life out of service while your family mistook quiet work for small work. I sent the committee 6 years of student letters, improvement data, alumni statements, parent testimony, and administrator evaluations. I did not send them because you are my granddaughter. I sent them because you are the kind of teacher this country needs to remember exists." I pressed my fingers to my eyes. "Do not cry in an airport," she said gently. "They charge too much for coffee there." I laughed once, broken and grateful. The flight to Washington felt unreal. First class had warm towels, glass cups, and a flight attendant who called me Ms. Whitman as if my name belonged in polished air. A black car took me to the Willard, where marble floors shone under chandeliers, and people said things like scalable impact while eating shrimp from silver trays. I kept the red binder in my tote bag the entire time. At 9:15 p.m., 2 people from the Department of Education Office of Inspector General met me in a small conference room that smelled like coffee, copier toner, and lemon cleaner. Special Agent Elena Ward sat across from me. Auditor Matthew Keene opened a laptop. Dr. Bell joined by video, and Grandma Ruth sat beside me in a navy suit. I did not accuse. I documented. Agent Ward asked for dates, dollar amounts, access to my social security number, digital signatures, and family pressure. I answered each question the way I taught essays, clearly, specifically, with evidence. At the end, Matthew Keene tapped the binder once. "This is unusually organized." "I teach 7th grade," I said. "If you do not organize chaos, chaos eats you." Grandma Ruth smiled. Agent Ward looked at me. "We may need you available tomorrow after the ceremony. Do not warn them. Do not engage them. Do not post anything." "I wasn't planning to." "Good." That was the second hammer. The third hammer would fall in public. While I prepared in Washington, my family prepared in Columbus. Brooke chose Marceau, a French restaurant with velvet chairs, white tablecloths, and a private alcove where my father liked to be seen. At 6:47 p.m., they arrived for what they called Brooke's real celebration. Owen came too. He later told me that he almost stayed home. At 7:03 p.m., while I stood behind the curtain at the Kennedy Center, listening to the muffled thunder of 2,000 people taking their seats, Brooke raised a glass in Columbus and said, "To meaningful achievement." My father answered, "To the daughter who understood the assignment." My mother laughed. Owen did not. At 7:18 p.m., a producer touched my elbow. "Ms. Whitman, you enter after the secretary's introduction. Follow the light." The stage smelled faintly of dust, hot cables, perfume, and polished wood. Cameras waited at every angle. I saw Grandma Ruth in the front row, and beside her sat a young man in a charcoal suit who made my chest tighten before my mind caught up. Noah Bennett. He had been 13 when he came to my class with sleeves pulled over bruised wrists and a reading level 3 grades behind. I kept granola bars in my desk for him, drove him to scholarship interviews, and sat beside him on a courthouse bench the day he became legally emancipated at 17. Now he stood 6 feet tall with a surgical resident badge clipped to his jacket. When the secretary called his name, Noah walked to the microphone and unfolded a single sheet of paper. His hands shook, but his voice did not. "When I was 14, he said, I thought school was a place adults sent you so they did not have to see you. Ms.
Whitman saw me anyway."
The ballroom went silent. She noticed I was hungry. She noticed I wore the same hoodie for 11 straight days. She noticed I wrote every essay like I was apologizing for being alive. She never embarrassed me. She never made me a project. She just kept showing up until I believed maybe I could show up too. I pressed my nails into my palm. I am a doctor now because one teacher refused to let a damaged kid become invisible. He turned toward me. "Ms. Whitman, you did not save me with speeches. You saved me with attendance forms, granola bars, scholarship deadlines, and the stubborn belief that my future was not finished." 2,000 people stood. I did not. I could not move. Then the secretary opened the cream envelope. The cameras moved closer. The room held its breath in a way I had only heard before a child read aloud for the first time. The 2024 National Teacher of the Year is Claire Whitman, Cedar Ridge Middle School, Columbus, Ohio. The sound hit me like weather. I walked to the stage through applause so loud it blurred the edges of the room. The secretary shook my hand. Noah was crying. Grandma Ruth was crying. Somewhere in the back, Dr. Bell was standing with both hands over his mouth, like he had just watched a miracle with poor funding. Then my father's phone lit up in Columbus. CNN pushed the alert at 7:52 p.m. Brooke saw the photograph first and said, "No." Then she said it again, softer, as if denying reality in a lower voice might improve the odds. My mother grabbed the phone. My father watched my name scroll beneath the headline. Ohio teacher Claire Whitman named National Teacher of the Year. Former student credits her with saving his life. Nominated by legendary educator Ruth Caldwell. Owen read the line aloud. The restaurant kept moving around them. Forks touched plates. A waiter poured wine. And somewhere near the bar, a woman laughed. At their table, the air collapsed. My father whispered, "Ruth nominated her?" Brooke's mouth opened, then closed. My mother said, "Why didn't Claire tell us it was this big?" Owen looked at all 3 of them. "She did. You didn't read the invitation." Nobody answered him. Back in Washington, I stepped to the podium with the speech I had written folded in my hand. It was safe. It mentioned literacy outcomes, community partnerships, and the moral urgency of public education. It thanked committees. It quoted research. It would have pleased everyone and wounded no one. I set it aside. Growing up, I began, I was taught that success had a price tag. I was taught that certain work mattered only if it came with a title, a bonus, or a table at the right restaurant. I was told, more than once, that teaching was what people did when they could not become anything else. The room quieted into attention. I know now that some people confuse quiet work with small work. They see a teacher buying pencils and think she failed to become powerful. They see a classroom with cracked tile and old books and think nothing important can happen there. But the most powerful rooms in America are not always courtrooms or boardrooms. Sometimes they are room 217, where a child who has been called broken learns to raise his hand. I looked toward Noah. Tonight, I accept this honor for every educator who stayed late, spent their own money, answered the email, made the phone call, filed the form, noticed the hunger, noticed the fear, noticed the child behind the behavior. Your work counts, even when your own family does not understand it. Your worth is not decided by people who benefit from making you feel small. Grandma Ruth pressed a hand to her mouth. And to anyone watching from a table where they are being underestimated, stay calm. Keep records. Tell the truth. Let your life become the evidence. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. In Columbus, phones began ringing before dessert arrived. My father's golf partner asked why he was not in Washington. My mother's book club erupted with questions. Brooke received texts from partners, clients, and 3 women from lunch who had heard her call my ceremony a participation trophy for underpaid women with savior complexes. Brooke tried to control the story. She posted a screenshot from CNN with the caption, "So proud of my amazing sister Claire. Our family has always supported her work through the Whitman Family Learning Fund. Education matters. Family first." She deleted it 7 minutes later. Screenshots lasted longer. At 8:16 p.m., a former education reporter named Marissa Cole commented publicly, "Interesting. I heard Brooke Whitman call her sister's national award meaningless at lunch today. Also curious about the Whitman Family Learning Fund's claimed donations to Cedar Ridge. I covered education grants for 6 years. Some of these numbers look strange." By 8:41 p.m., the post had spread through local education circles. By 9:12 p.m., Harrington Vale's managing partner had texted Brooke, "Do not discuss the foundation online. Call me immediately." By 9:30 p.m., Agent Ward had enough urgency to move faster. The public stage arrived the next morning. The Department of Education hosted a private breakfast at the Willard for finalists, donors, education nonprofits, and selected media. Brooke walked in at 8:22 a.m. with my parents behind her, wearing the same smile she used in court when the facts were inconvenient. My mother carried flowers. My father carried shame, badly disguised as authority. I was standing near the coffee service with Grandma Ruth when I saw them. "Claire," my mother breathed, rushing toward me. "Sweetheart, we are so proud." I stepped back before she could hug me. Brooke's eyes flicked to the reporters nearby. "We tried to get here as soon as we could. Flights were impossible." "It's a 7-hour drive," I said. Her smile tightened. My father lowered his voice. "This is not the time for resentment. We are family." I looked at him. "No, this is exactly the time for accuracy." A few heads turned. Brooke laughed lightly. "Claire is overwhelmed. Big night. Lots of emotion." I reached into my tote bag, removed the red binder, and placed it on the high cocktail table between us. The sound was soft, leather against wood. It still silenced the nearest conversation. Brooke saw the label first. Whitman Family Learning Fund. Certification Discrepancies. 2021-2024. Her face changed. "Claire," she whispered, "what is that?" "Copies," I said. "The originals are with the Department of Education Office of Inspector General." My father's hand moved toward the binder. I placed my palm on top of it. "No." One word. He stopped. Agent Ward approached from the left with Matthew Keene beside her. They did not hurry. They did not need to. Authority is loudest when it does not raise its voice. "Brooke Whitman?" Agent Ward asked. Brooke looked around and realized several phones were already pointed in our direction. "I'm an attorney," she said. "I know." My father stepped forward. "This is a misunderstanding involving family paperwork." Matthew Keene opened his own folder. The paperwork includes forged electronic signatures, false certifications tied to federal pass-through education funds, and payments routed through a vendor connected to Ms. Whitman's law firm. My mother's flowers trembled in her hand. Brooke's voice sharpened. "You have no idea what you're talking about." Agent Ward remained calm. "Then you will have the opportunity to clarify. For now, we need you to come with us." The room went completely quiet. Coffee urns sounded like machinery. Brooke looked at me with betrayal, as if I had broken a rule by refusing to remain useful. "You did this?" she hissed. "No," I said. "You did. I kept records." My father tried one final time. "Claire, if you love this family, you will fix this." I looked at the man who had called my life a vanity parade and felt nothing hot enough to burn me. "I already did." That was the final hammer. There were no dramatic handcuffs at breakfast, not at first. Real consequences arrive through meetings, letters, subpoenas, frozen accounts, professional review boards, and doors that stop opening. Brooke was escorted out for questioning. My mother stood alone with flowers she had bought for a daughter she had not chosen until cameras did. I left the binder on the table until Matthew Keene collected it. By Friday, Harrington Vale placed Brooke on administrative leave. By Tuesday, the Ohio Attorney General announced a joint review of the Whitman Family Learning Fund. Within 3 months, my father had resigned from 2 boards, and the foundation returned $142,600 while auditors kept tracing payments. The numbers mattered. $86,740 for materials never delivered. $31,275 to a shell vendor, $14,890 in consulting fees paid to a company registered under Brooke's assistant's apartment address, 3 forged certifications, 2 false board minutes, 1 teacher's name used because they assumed I was too small to check. They were wrong. Brooke eventually accepted a plea agreement on wire fraud and identity misuse connected to federal funds. She avoided prison, but not disgrace. 12 months home confinement, 5 years probation, restitution. Community service in adult literacy, where one student asked her to explain a paragraph she did not understand. My father paid civil penalties and sold the lake house. My mother left the country club after a woman in pearls asked too loudly whether stolen education money counted as charity. Owen filed for divorce quietly and sent me one email months later. You deserved better from all of us. I am sorry I stayed silent. I believed him. I did not need him. 6 months after Washington, my father asked to meet at a coffee shop near Cedar Ridge. It smelled like burnt espresso and cinnamon syrup. He looked smaller without the country club posture, older without Brooke's success to stand behind. I was wrong about you, he said. Yes. He swallowed. I was wrong about teaching. Yes. I don't know how to repair this. That was the first honest sentence I had ever heard him say about me. I folded the paper once and placed it in my bag. You start by understanding that forgiveness is not access. I can forgive what happened and still not return to the table where it happened. His eyes filled. Mine did not. That fall, Cedar Ridge opened the Caldwell Literacy Lab. The recovered funds bought reading software, new books, tutoring stipends, winter coats, headphones, and a refrigerator for snacks nobody had to hide. Noah came in his white coat and cried when a 7th grader asked if doctors could have been bad readers once. Yes, he told her, some of the best ones. I still teach in room 217. The heater still clicks. The carpet still curls in the corner because district maintenance moves at the speed of fossilization. But there is a new shelf by the window filled with books my students actually want to read. And above it hangs a framed photograph from Washington, not of me holding the award, but of Noah at the microphone telling the truth. That is the picture that matters. People ask whether winning changed my life. It did. But not because of the title, the interviews, or the invitation to speak at conferences where people suddenly cared what a middle school teacher thought. It changed my life because it ended the audition. I stopped performing daughterhood for people who treated love like a scholarship I had failed to earn. Blood does not make a family. Loyalty does. And sometimes, the cleanest revenge is not revenge at all. It is documentation. It is calm. It is refusing to scream while the truth walks into the room carrying a red binder. It is standing beneath bright lights while the people who called you small finally understand that you were never small. They were just standing too far away to see you clearly. If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments how old you are and where you're watching from. And if you believe quiet people can still win, subscribe to the channel because the next story may be even closer to your own than you expect.